8:33, everybody, and there has been a dramatic spike over the last summer in the number of unsheltered youth in New York City.
Yes, a report released by the city's Department of Youth counted more than 400 young people between the ages of 14 and 24 were sleeping in subways, houses of worship, fast food restaurants, and overnight drop-in centers. Now, Sebastian Vante runs one of those overnight drop centers and called the Streetwork Project, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary. Good morning to you, Sebastian. Thanks so much for being here. Those numbers are startling and heartbreaking to hear about. When you think of children out in the cold trying to find shelter in one of these places, often if they're in a bank or in a fast food restaurant, they're kicked out back into the streets. What do we do about that?
Well, what we've noticed over the past year is there's been a growing number of unsheltered youth, specifically younger youth between the ages of 17 to 21. Many of those young folks are recent arrivals to New York, and many of them recent arrivals to New York, and many of them are coming from West African countries such as Mauritania and Guinea, and they're often met with challenges, complex challenges, navigating immigration process, accessing education, and securing housing. And the level of trauma that many of these young folks face is quite profound, and which is why it's important that programs like ours are there to support these young folks.
Yeah, and obviously with the numbers that we just saw, there's a need for the beds. There's needs for organizations like yours, right? But the city has not added any more beds. Have you had conversations with the city about how to provide more resources since there is such a need?
Yeah, I think the reluctance to add more beds seems to be around like budget constraints, but I also think it's a lack of prioritizing the needs of homeless youth. Although the city does acknowledge that there is a spike, the resources still remain limited.
Right.
And what that leaves is programs like ours kind of filling the gap, oftentimes to exceeding our own capacity to meet the demand. There is a need for more beds, and I wish that these beds would come online.
Yeah. Can you describe what the overnight drop-in center is like and then what's offered there?
So our drop-in centers operate off of like a one-stop shop model. We try to provide as many resources on site as possible to minimize the barriers that a lot of our young folks face to access services. So on site we have concrete services and case management. So those concrete services, a place where young people can take showers, drop off their laundry, get brand new t-shirts, socks, hygiene supplies, where they can get a hot meal, pantry, where they can have access to case management, therapy, psychiatry. We try to bring everything on site to support that.
How many do you have across the city?
So we have two drop-in centers. We have one drop-in center located right next to the Apollo Theater on 209 West 125th Street. And then we have another drop-in center located on the Lower East Side at 33 Essex Street.
Obviously, like we talked about, is the need, right? And because of that, have you ever had to turn somebody away?
We have, and in the event that we do have to turn a young person away, we always provide them with alternative resources through our community partners or our helpline, but we always make sure to provide the basic needs, such as a hot meal, some clothing, and hygiene supplies.
Who's funding the operation, and do you need more money?
So our Harlem drop-in is primarily funded by DYCD. And yeah, there is a need because, like you mentioned, there is a growing number of homeless youth in the city, and they're flocking to programs like ours to get their needs met. And so we do need the resources and the funding so that we can continue to meet their needs.
What is contributing to the age of the people on the street getting younger and younger?
I think it does have a lot to do with migrants. There's been a lot of unaccompanied migrants coming into the city.
But that young, 14?
Well, but I also think that there are a lot of young folks who are being ejected from their homes from a lot of reasons, behavioral reasons, maybe not being, family not being able to manage or support a young person. Maybe a young person not willing to go back to home because they're being rejected because of their identity, their how they identify may not align with what a parent would want for them. Yeah, I think there's many reasons.
Well, I appreciate what you do each and every day to help with the situation. Keep us posted, okay? Do you have plans to open another one?
Not yet, but
Okay.
you know.
To be continued, right?
be continued,
2025 is a long year.
Yes, yes.
Sebastian, great stuff that you're doing out there, and thank you for coming on to talk about it, okay?
Thank you.